come check out the Connection games and comics. We have the largest selection of War Machine and Hordes miniatures in the Lower Mainland. War Machine Wednesdays and Sundays, with tables and terrain to play your game.
Welcome back to Wargaming Shotgun Jam Guide, where we're going to discuss the Cygnar All-in-One Army Box. As you're well aware, the Army Box contains a complete 35-point force, and this one's led by Siege, or Marcus Siege Brisbane. Brisbane?
Major. Marcus.
Major, he's a major.
Siege Brisbane.
Rocket black guy.
That's racist.
No, it's not. He's got rockets and he's a black guy. That's not racist, that's descriptive.
That actually is, I'll side with Steve on that one.
Yeah, take that.
It's off of a StarCraft thing that was racist at the time.
Was it really racist at the time?
Rocket black guy. Marauders are black guys in suits that shoot rockets.
So how is that not descriptive?
Still though,
You can paint him white. He doesn't have to be black.
I wouldn't paint him white. He's so much cooler at black.
I mean, you can. I'm just saying.
I just can't imagine him as being like a white guy. Plus, everybody else in the freaking game is white. Why do we need another white guy?
I really think he might be one of the token black guys of this whole game.
Except he's not, because he's not expendable.
That's true. Well, the thing is, you get like white guy, white guy, white guy, white guy, undead guy, and random beast guy. You know, use black guy.
Sure, whatever.
They're diverse, and plus, he's earned his right to be major.
Whatever. Let's just restart.
So why don't you tell us what he does?
He shoots the things and makes the people fall down.
And
please be more descriptive.
Seriously, so I mean, Siege is he's actually a siege warcaster.
Yeah.
In many ways. He supports ranged units quite well. He sports a 14-inch range gun at POW 14 that is capable of making a ground pounder attack, so like an AoE attack that hits everything in an area that you just get to place within its range.
So good.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. He's a 6 focus, so he's average as far as casters are concerned, which is below average for Cygnar, but that's okay. He's got a POW 14 melee weapon too. That's not really super important. His spell list is pretty good. It's pretty focused on delivering ranged punishment. So he's got an Explosivo. Well, I don't like the name of that spell, but it is what it is. That basically gives a model a ranged AoE on their non-AoE ranged attack. But it's only for one shot.
And that's AoE 3 or what?
AoE 3, yeah.
Okay, but I mean, like on something that has like super high POW.
Well, yeah. I mean, like it's a good spell. It only costs 1 focus, so it's pretty cheap to go off, and you can cast it on multiple models because it's not an upkeep spell.
Now, does that give the weapon that profile for the rest of the turn, or is it the next shot?
The next shot.
Okay.
The next shot, and it also gives them a magical weapon, which is important for sometimes.
Yeah, like against was it Rimgrave or?
For certain things, I mean, like you toss it on your defender and shoot Denegra in the head when she's incorporeal, and
that made me so happy.
then she dies.
Make me so happy.
He's got Force Hammer, which is basically just a spell that slams. It can be situationally useful, but it's super expensive. It's 4 focus. He's got Foxhole, which has multiple uses, actually. It's a 5-inch AoE that you place, and it grants your own units cover and makes them not block line of sight, but the line of sight blocking component is useful for any model.
So it's 2-way.
Yeah, you can actually dump a Foxhole under your opponent's models to make your own models able to shoot past them without...
That I didn't know. That's really cool, actually.
So it basically gets him out of the way for line of sight purposes. He's also got Mage Sight, which similarly lets you drop an AoE down that removes stealth from models.
Now the Foxhole thing, is that, how does that work? Is it any part of the base?
They have to be completely within.
And how big is a Foxhole?
5-inch AoE.
How big is the AoE of a Colossal?
I don't know if it works on Colossals, but that's interesting.
Because, I mean, if you can make a Colossal disappear, not only is he more magical than David Blaine, but he's, that would be super important, because how many times do Colossals just jam up the field like that? Yeah,
I mean, like when drawing, so the actual ruling is when drawing line of sight to a model not completely within the AoE, ignore intervening models completely within the AoE. So yeah, I mean, basically it's just a hole that, yeah, I think you can probably drop a Colossal into
that would be
for line of
awesome.
sight purposes. As I was saying, Mage Sight is basically a similar buff for, except it removes stealth. And also ignores cloud effects when drawing line of sight.
Well, that's kind of the opposite then.
Well, it's the opposite, but in the sense that it's a 5-inch AoE that you drop to help your models shoot stuff.
Yeah.
And he also has a basic offensive spell that drops rough terrain AoE, but you're not usually going to be casting that. I would say that most of the time with Siege, you're going to end up casting or upkeeping Foxhole and Mage Sight, maybe camping a bit and using his focus to either give to his Jack or potentially like even just boost his rocket pound, ground pound damage rolls. The really cool thing about Siege is his feat Breach, which is a really strong Alpha Strike feat. It lets you, for the next damage roll every enemy model in his control area suffers, you double the damage that exceeds armor.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of like Epic Sorceress.
Yeah, except it only affects the first...
the first attack.
Actually, sorry, I'm completely wrong. I was basically reading Epic Sorceress feat. For the first damage roll, you actually have the armor of the model in question.
Okay, that's even better, generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean
if you're firing at like warjacks.
It depends, but yeah, generally speaking, you're good against high armor stuff. So like an armor 20k warjack will become armor 10 for that shot. But only the one shot. It's not one shot per model you have, it's one shot per model.
Now, is that range shot or melee? Or
anything. It's just damage roll. So it can be any kind.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. Siege has 5 jack points and is speed 5, so he's not the fastest guy. But he is reasonably accurate at range if you're shooting a non-ground pounder, and he's,
He can also aim if he has to, and like...
Armor 17, so he's not super... he's pretty squishy if he's not camping. But he can camp up to 23, so it's okay.
Now, the one issue I have with Siege, specifically in this box, is that they included the old model, not the newly updated one where he's carrying a rocket.
Yeah.
This one's the one where he's carrying the hammer, and it's not a bad model, it's just I kind of wish they would have included the new one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a stat-wise fault or
Like,
anything.
he feels like less like Rocket Black guy, more like, hammery guy.
Yes, he still has the rocket cannon on his back, but he is in fact holding Havoc, his hammer.
Which is still, scary. I wouldn't mess with a guy with a giant hammer.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
But yeah, so I feel like he's... And the nice thing about Siege, too, is that you can drop him into basically any list, and he can offer something to that army.
Generally speaking, yeah.
Well, because then any army can deal with, like, oh, you're half armor, or...
I feel like his spell list complements a
range heavy?
A shooting list more than anything else, but his feat is just a general take all comers. And to be fair, I mean, like, Cygnar has a lot of shooting in faction, and some of the you're basically always gonna have a jack that has a ranged attack.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is, like, in this all-in-one box, actually, speaking of Siege, you get Stormguard rather than what are the swordy guys?
Stormblades?
Stormblades, yeah. So the only guy that has an actual legitimate range attack in the Stormguard is the leader. It's got to be the leader guy, and he's augmented by everybody else who's hit something. So I feel like Stormblades might have been a better fit for this box.
They're more expensive points wise though.
Are they? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think they're like 10 or 11 points.
Yeah, they're more elite.
Plus you pay the UA for the UA.
The Stormguard are like your tar pit unit in this box.
Yeah, well, and then POW 12s with Reach are pretty awesome. So actually, we'll just talk about them. So they have combined melee, POW 12 with Reach, which is sweet. They're immune to electricity, which is particularly important when you're dealing with, like, if you're running Nemo or
their own electro. Do these guys have electrolyte, or is it different?
Yes, they do, actually. So there's that. Yeah. So when they hit somebody with one of their melee attacks, a model within 4 inches, the nearest model within 4 inches of the model hit, ignoring the attacker, takes a POW 10 electrical damage roll. So them being immune to electricity, when sometimes they're going to be the closest model, it's a big deal. They've got set defense, so that's pretty sweet, because their defense is kind of, on the lower end of average, I guess.
You need mat 7 to hit them on the charge on average.
The Stormguard have the ability, they don't block line of sight when you're shooting.
Yeah, they have ranked attacks.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it's called. It is called ranked attacks.
Yeah.
All right.
It is called ranked attacks.
So they're very similar to most other Reach targeting units, with the exception of they've got kind of an interesting mechanic with their leader. The UA gets to make one range attack, and for every attack that's hit by anybody in the unit, it increases in POW. So it starts off as range 10, AoE 3, POW 6, and it gets +1 POW for each one that's struck something. So I don't think there's any way of giving them additional attacks, but I mean, you could end up with, POW 15, POW 16 range attack.
There's no way of giving them additional attacks in this box.
Yeah, in this box.
If you were to swap out, for example, P. Haley, her feat gives everyone an extra attack.
Yeah, that would be cool.
For example.
And that would be awesome, because then you get like some gigantic, ridiculous shot. So you just and they've got gunfighter, so obviously.
Well, he has gunfighter, but I don't think they all have gunfighter.
Technically, they all have gunfighter, but none of them, the rest of them have range attacks.
And gunfighter is only there so that you can make the attack while you're still engaged.
Yeah. So you basically jam them into something and then make all the attacks and then, blammo somebody in the face.
Yeah. Because it's an AoE, it's also important that it deals electric damage and they are immune to electricity.
Yeah. So they're pretty decent. I mean, and the fact that they're kind of they only cost for a full unit, they're only 9 points, so they're not terribly expensive. They're not going to live through most games.
They're a target.
I like them, but I've always been a big fan of the Stormblade, so I'm a little bit biased because when I played Cygnar, I played with Stormblade. I didn't really play with Stormguard that much.
Totally different purposes, though.
Mostly because I had them in my battle phone bag.
Mm.
And at the time I had slots that were a little bit too small, and almost all of the freaking halberds broke in half, and it just made me sad.
Back when they were metal, too.
No, these ones were plastic.
Really?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think they would have just bent if they're metal, but they just snapped. And I started replacing the stabs with or the halberds with brass rods, but it was still kind of sucky. I mean, that was my fault for storing them in that way, so it's not a problem with the model per se, but. There is a case to be made for replacing them. With anything that has a long halberd or something like that.
Proper storage, people.
There's a case to be made with brass rodding them, but
saves models' lives.
Okay, Logan, why don't you kick us off with something?
All right. Well, I'm going to start with the Defender Warjack since we're talking about Jacks having range attacks in general with Cygnar. The Defender Warjack, it's one of Cygnar's most basic heavy Warjacks. Pretty heavy hitting considering the lack of durability. It's been taken compared to say a Khador Jack or
Khador player saying that this heavy Jack has lack of durability because he's got armor 19.
18.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
2 less. Oh man.
Okay, flat metal plates to its face.
So the Defender is pretty basic. He has a range 16, power 15 gun, and he has above average rat, so you'll probably hit.
His gun is big, and the long range lets it aim fairly frequently.
Yeah, and his shock hammer is power strength 16, so it's also a very good melee weapon.
So he's rate of fire 1?
Rate of fire 1, yeah. Then basically the only thing special about him really is the fact that his shock hammer has the ability Cortex damage. So when a Warjack is hit by this weapon, it suffers 1 damage point to its first available Cortex system box.
Interesting. I'm assuming that's in addition to whatever damage it takes.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's ping.
Yep. Oh yeah. It's
Well, I mean, it's interesting because if you load it up with at least 2 focus and get 3 attacks, you can break most Jack's Cortex with a charge.
And
guaranteed.
He's relatively inexpensive, is he not?
He is only 9 points.
Yeah. So I mean, that's not too bad.
You're paying for the gun though. The gun is the.
It's
range 16, power 15 is
And
that's a shoot somebody in the face gun.
And above average rat on a Jack. It's really good. Honestly, it's a raw. It's not.
You can just say it's rat 7.
It's nothing special. It's rat 6 actually.
Oh, okay.
No. I mean it's it's nothing special, but it's rock solid. There's nothing bad you can say about the Defender.
Well, I guess especially with Siege, the fact that he can get rid of a big area of things in front. You just blast their warcaster in the face.
Yeah, well, so to reiterate, Siege can get a Colossal out of the way for line of sight purposes, remove stealth from you, give it a magic weapon and AoE on its shot,
and
then have it aim and shoot your caster in the face.
Yeah.
Wow. But remember, this is the Denegre example I was talking about earlier. It's who cares?
And she'd only take 1 shot to the face. Pow 16, half damage or half armor.
Pow 15.
Pow 15, half armor.
Even boost, you only do about 11 damage. Half armor.
Armor 7.
Yeah. Armor 7 is a little better. Feet turn would be pretty amusing.
You take on average with boosted attacks, you're doing 20 something damage. She only has 14 boxes.
Yeah, I know, but I was talking I wasn't thinking of feet turn.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I mean, he's got a good ability to get, and the thing is, it's safe too, right? You've got this big area of denial in front of you, and you've got a clear shot to whatever the hell you want dead. Yeah, you only get 1 shot, but you're probably going to make that shot count, so he's pretty sick.
Lastly, Defender has 26 boxes. I'm pretty sure that's about the average.
That's about average
for Cygnar. So yeah.
Now the question is, but another model that we have in this box is, let's talk about the Avenger first.
I believe you have.
Which I have. All right, yeah. So the Avenger is in some ways kind of similar. He accepts way shorter range. He's got range 10, POW, 14 gun, although it's an AoE 4, so that's pretty amazing. He can clear out huge areas. Same point cost, which isn't bad. Same, well, actually, Matt I think is the same rat, is lower. His rat is kind of on the garbage end of the spectrum.
He's one of the slow Cygnar Jack chassis,
Yeah.
which means he's slower and less elite.
But then,
Sort of.
yeah, and then but POW 18s for 9 points, pretty sweet.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's on his melee attack. He's got a couple of special things going on. He's got the Quake thing on his cannon. So his cannon's a seismic cannon. So anything hit in that 4-inch area.
As long as you directly hit.
Oh, is it direct?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
You have to hit the initial target.
Well, okay. Anything directly hit by that. So I guess the AoE doesn't matter for that.
No, the AoE does. You just have to hit the initial target.
Oh, okay.
So it's on a direct hit. Models in the AoE are knocked down.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you just have to hit what you're aiming at.
Okay. Oh, fair enough. So you can knock down potentially multiple jacks. Is probably a good way to use that, because if you're hitting infantry with the seismic cannon, they're probably dead.
Yeah, unless they're like armored, but yeah, like
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then any warjack he directly hits stalls, and what that does is it lowers the defense to 7. They can't run or charge.
This is with his melee.
And yeah, that's his blade. His stun blade stuns things. See how that works? Otherwise, he's unremarkable. He does basically the same amount of boxes, same amount of everything else.
He is slower and tankier, though. He is on the armor 19 chassis.
Oh, that's right. I thought the defender had armor 19, or was it 18?
I also thought the defender had
18,
armor 19.
right.
It was actually 18.
So he's pretty sweet. He's a little more. He's not as clear on how you want to use him as the defender. Defender's like, shoot the dude in the face, and if that doesn't work, shoot the dude in the face again. It's fine. The Avenger, he's going to have a shorter range, but he's slow. His rat's slow, so he's not going to really directly hit on a lot of things. So you kind of want to like maybe move him up, shoot stuff, move him up, shoot stuff, and then try and get into melee when you can, because POW 18s are the
Yeah, he's definitely a more melee-centric Jack than the defender, although he does lack reach.
Yeah, which is weird, because the sword's like 12 feet long.
Speaking of reach, while we're on the topic, both of the kits included in this box can be assembled into all of their 3 variants.
It's true.
The Avenger can be assembled into a Centurion, and many people would consider the Centurion a stronger overall Jack for the same points cost.
I think
We're gonna go with the Avenger because it's what's in the box.
I think what we'll do is we might actually magnetize these ones.
Okay, well that's cool too.
Because it just gives us options in terms of like down the road.
Sure, right.
But
or a Hammersmith, but I prefer this Centurion to Hammersmith.
yeah, we're not going to have to magnetize any of the Legion stuff because I have all of it. But anyway, so the Avenger again, that's kind of how the Avenger works. The thing that I would wonder is on the next one, the Journeyman warcaster, which you're going to talk about in a second here. Which Jack do we run?
See, there's actually 3 models capable of running Jacks in this list. There's there's Siege, the Junior, and there's also the Gun Mages, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Their officer actually allows you to marshal the Jack, which normally Jack marshalling is so-so, but they actually have the ability to confer their special abilities to a warjack.
Okay.
So it's worth considering at least. But yeah, Journeyman Warcaster, who I'll refer to as Junior in most of instances here, was the first of the Journeyman Warcasters introduced years ago. It's the only non-character one, to my knowledge, as opposed to like Allison Jakes and people like Iacos that are available now.
Which one was the one that actually is for Cygnar?
Allison Jakes.
Oh, okay.
I'm not super impressed with her, but I'll digress. So the Journeyman Warcaster in this box, the non-character one, only has 3 focus. He's got a hand cannon and a weak melee weapon, so he can sort of do stuff. I mean, he can still buy and boost attacks because he's got focus.
He can play slappy hands when something comes close.
But I mean, more importantly, he can fuel a warjack, and he also has Arcane Shield.
Okay. Yeah.
Arcane Shield is like one of the big reasons why you take this guy, because it's an upkeep that just gives a friendly model or unit 3 armor. So you can do that.
Is it a model or unit? So you can throw them
Model
on
or unit.
the Stormblades?
Yes, you could throw those on the Stormguard. Most of the time it's going to be on like a warjack.
It's actually 3 armor or is it 2? I thought it was 2.
It's 3.
Wow, I was
It's
totally
3
wrong.
armor.
It's
It's a 2 cost upkeep spell, so the first turn he's going to cast it, and then every other turn he's probably not. Because he's a 3 focus, his control area is pretty short. So if you do have a warjack with him, he's going to have to stay pretty close until you've delivered it. But just the ability, like even taking him without using a warjack and only using him for the Arcane Shield is still a perfectly valid.
Well, yeah, I mean, people take freaking Carnavians for spiny growth.
He's got victim stats, but like for 3 points, as long as you keep him like he doesn't even need to be anywhere near what he's arcane shielded after he casts it on the first turn. He can sit in the back of the goddamn table just doing.
But the benefit of running a jack with him though is it frees up that much focus for your.
The thing is though, you're typically only going to have 2 focus to get the jack because you have to spend the 3rd upkeeping.
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean, again, that's a valid option if you're not looking to run a jack with the gun mages to get the extra.
Or in the turn that you're going to go, all in with the warjack.
True, yeah, you can drop the arcane shield.
But I mean, 3 armored, I don't know if that would be worth it.
But even if you have, well, it is if you win.
Oh,
but even if you just use him for the arcane shield, he'll have 2 focus left over, which he can use to boost the attack and damage of his hand cannon.
That's true.
Which is, it's a reasonable. It's range 12, power 12. His rack kind of sucks, but boosted, he'll hit armor, defense 14 on average.
Well, any game.
Yeah, if you're presented with a target within aiming distance.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, like a boosted damage roll on a power 12 ranged attack on Siege's feat turn can be valuable.
Yeah. That's
So, but yeah, I mean, whether or not you run him with a jack, Junior's still the model. Cygnar, 3 points, buys you arcane shield. You can't really complain.
Now, in this box, how would you use him?
I forget off the top of my head what the ammo types are for the gun mages. If I were not to use the gun mages to marshal one of the jacks, I'd probably give this guy I'd probably give him the defender unless my opponent had like a stealth warcaster that needed to be taken out with like the defender shot, for example. And I would, because I mean, giving him the defender gives you.
You have enough focus to actually like.
Yeah, you have enough focus to upkeep arcane shield and then boost the attack and damage rolls on the cannon, which is the main reason you take a defender.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll get to the gun mages in a little bit here, but I am really leery about marshalling warjacks with unit leaders, especially because I just feel like they're really vulnerable to getting taken out, and then you're left with like basically.
You let it.
Yeah, but I mean, but then you're left with a jack that can't charge things. They can't.
You can reactivate it with your warcaster.
Oh, okay.
I've never. Probably with the junior too. You play Legion, of course you've never.
I've never had to do that. You just keep going. You just charge anyway. It's fine.
Anyway.
So the thing, I mean, for me, the big thing with the Journeyman, in addition to the big thing is the defend or the armor.
The arcane shield.
But being able to give out free focus frees up Siege, who doesn't have a lot of focus to spare.
Right.
Of that 2 or 3 focus that you could potentially be spending on the jack.
Like I mean, with this box, I would recommend against giving Siege both jacks under basically any circumstance.
Yeah, you got too much stuff to do with him.
You give him one of the jacks, whichever one is most important to benefit from Mage Sight, because Mage Sight can only affect models in his battle group.
Okay.
And you give either the junior or the gun mages the other one.
Okay. But I mean, and even like running one warjack with Siege, I think can be a challenge, which is why you want to run something like a Squire. Bam! See how I did that? Yeah.
The Squire, also known lovingly as R2.
Yeah. Total victim stats on the solo. I guess he's average or slightly above average speed. Otherwise, total victim stats.
Yeah, he's a robot you kick for focus.
Yeah. Basically, you.
You kick it.
You kick it for focus. So he does a couple of things. Two things that are important, really. First of which, he gets 3 focus points, basically, at the start of the game.
They're like accumulator boxes, is what they're called, I believe.
Accumulator circles.
Oh, there you go.
Every turn, you're allowed to allocate one of those, or get rid of one on the Squire and give it to your warcaster as focus.
On his activation.
On his activation.
On the warcasters, that is.
Yeah. So for Siege, you'd bring him up to 7, but you can only do that 3 times because they do not replenish, they do not come back. You can only do 1 per turn,
It's
that's it.
typically enough for the game, though. You don't usually need to do it on the first turn, and...
Second turn is even probably not. So you do that. Additionally, he extends your control area of your warcaster by 2 inches, which is huge for a lot of warcasters.
Yeah, he basically makes your warcaster pretend like they have 1 more focus.
Yeah. So, I mean, in the case of Siege, he'll catch more people in his feet. In the case of something like Haley, she catches more enemy models like super easy. And he's 2 points. And the Squire, I don't know if he's always like an auto include, especially if you're running things like the Journeyman, because then you've got 5 points tied up in solos that are not directly going to kill things for you. That being said, like, because the thing is, like, the two of them together, that's Black 13th, right?
Right, but I mean, the Squire by himself is 2 points.
Yeah,
like,
by himself is 2 points. It's just I think you want to be careful about going overboard on solos, personally. But
you can't go overboard on solos with Cygnar. Cygnar is a faction of mercs and solos.
I think you can go overboard. Anyway,
we disagree.
Anyway,
you're also ignoring that he's got the Arcane Repeater.
The Arcane Repeater.
Yeah, you get to reroll a failed magic attack roll.
All right.
Which isn't super with siege, but
yeah. Okay, so I mean there is that. It's also like he has to be attached, so it has to be to the warcaster.
It's also important to note that the Squire is attached to your warcaster. So if for whatever reason you want to run Silas Wishmiller, the mercenary, you cannot run both Silas and a Squire.
Anyway, the Squire. I mean, to be honest, when I was playing Cygnar, Squire was almost an auto-include for every game.
Yeah.
With some exception, like
there's very few exceptions.
Like I don't think I generally have included him with his name, Epic Sword Guy.
Striker.
There you go, Epic Striker. Yeah, they won focus might be nice, but like wasn't that big of a deal.
It may or may not be important for Striker.
But you know, for all of the casty dudes and all of the like when I was running Nemo every game, always take him.
But even for Striker, like he only has 6 focus, and he's gonna spend some of that using his velocity or whatever the make him move spell.
Yeah, but you're almost like I never played a game with Striker where A, I didn't kill myself, or B, he didn't have at least 2 focus left when he got there, and that was more than enough. Like you just paced.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, the nice thing about like the Squire and the Journeyman being in this box is that you want to have them in your collection if you're a Cygnar player for sure. Like across the board, always.
The only downside being the junior is an FA1 model, and in the box you get the male version if you want the female version. That exists.
Oh yes, that's true. And then the last thing in this box are going to be the Gun Mage unit, as well as
Arcane Tempest Gun Mages.
Arcane Tempest Gun Mage unit, as well as unit attachment. And one thing I do want to mention about them that's super cool is that they can be taken by certain mercenary forces. I think they
you with a Highborn Covenant, you can elect to take either one unit of Gun Mages or one unit of Long Gunners as a faction.
So you take one unit of Gun Mages.
Long Gunners are really good too.
Okay, fair. But
Gun Mages are really cool. Like,
I
like the way they look.
They have style points, okay? That's all.
They do have style points. I'm not disagreeing with you there.
But anyway, why don't you let us know what they do?
Gun mages are one of Cygnar's biggest shooty units for sure. With they have high rat. They have a range 10, POW 10 magic weapon pistol, and they have a piddly little sword in case something happens to come up to them and turn them into paste.
And they have slappy hands.
Slappy hands.
Yeah, pretty much. It's basically what they're going to do. Something big comes up to them, they're just... That's their defensive mechanism in melee.
All right. So the first thing most people should know about the Arcane Tempest Gun Mages is that they have 3 different attacks. You can choose your attack type before you attack, and your choices are either critical brutal damage. So on a critical hit, you gain an additional die on this weapon's damage roll against the model directly hit. So that's pretty good. The second one, which is the one I've seen the most, is Snipe, where they gain +4 range. So that's quite a bit. And then the last one is Thunderbolt. Enemy models hit are pushed D3 inches directly away from the attacking model. On a critical hit, the enemy model is knocked down after being pushed, which is pretty damn good, I gotta say.
The cool part about that is that you don't actually have to deal damage. You just have to hit. So like you can be like, oh hey, there's a warjack over there, and just knock him back up to 6 inches.
Yep.
The one I actually, and I could have just been playing them wrong, but I tended to use Critical Brutal quite a bit. Try and fish for damage and just...
It's a toolbox, right? Like, there's certain models that you're not going to do damage to even with brutal damage.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, so if you want to hit a jack and knock it back a couple inches, you can do that. If you want to hit something that's just a few inches out of range, you can do that.
Yeah.
If you want to hit something that you want to deal extra damage to, you can try that too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're a super toolboxy range unit. They are kind of an elite unit in that they only come with 6 dudes, and you cannot get more than 6 6 actual grunt guys with them. So that's, low numbers,
but they're pretty quick.
Like they're pretty quick, yeah.
They also have an order, which is called Arcane Inferno, and that is models that receive this order can participate in a combined range attack this activation. The unit commander must be the primary attacker. When resolving this attack, the AoE of the unit commander's range weapon is 3 inches. Do not choose an attack type for this attack. A unit can only make one Arcane Inferno attack per activation.
Now I wonder how it would work. Let's say you chose like the Thunderbolt thing, so you knock back, right? And if Siege gave them the AoE on the attack.
That's one model. Siege's spell is one model.
Yeah, but like...
Okay. I think it's models directly hit by Thunderbolt.
Is that what it says on Thunderbolt? Models directly hit?
Enemy models hit or push D3 inches straight away. So.
Okay, so that's sweet. That's something I've never seen anybody do that,
Yeah.
but that'd be really cool. So you could take Siege, give these, he could cast it how many times? 2, 3 times?
He could cast it 6 times if he felt like it.
Give the, in a really weird corner case outlier situation that probably will never happen, gives it to all of them, and they just like AoE push back your enemy for. Although off of zones, like that's
Yeah,
useful.
you can do that.
Especially because like you have to clump up in a lot of cases on zones. Like it's hard to not be in a 3-inch AoE if you're trying to contest.
Oh, actually, sorry. Explosive also says enemy models do not suffer any other effects of the attack. So, so they probably don't actually.
Okay, well that's a shame. That would have been cool. You know what I think would have been cool, and this doesn't exist, but it would have been cool if they, instead of that combined thing where you get an AoE shot, if the leader guy could make it a shot and is affected by all 3 of their.
That would be broken. Well,
Just one shot. It'd
be pretty good.
Because then he gets like knockback, 4-inch range, and he gets to.
At long range, he gets critical brutal damage and knockdown on a crit. And it's pretty ridiculous.
That'd be cool.
Well, sadly, the Arcane Tempest Gunmage Officer is basically just an upgraded version of his unit. He has one extra rat, I believe. One extra mat and rat.
The officer is what gives him the Jack Marshall ability.
Yeah, he has the ability to Jack Marshall, and he also has 2 extra little things. He has the ability Rune Shot. So when a warjack controlled by this model makes it a normal range attack during its activation, you can choose one attack type available to this unit to apply to the attack. So you can give a Jack the ability to critical brutal, sniper, thunderbolt.
Yeah, so I mean like that when you're talking about the defender, as we were before, here's 20-inch range defender guy.
And then his passive ability with the unit is basically make his unit Legion, so everyone gets true sight.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean,
which lets you see through literally everything. So.
And then the thing is, like the gun mages, that ability,
basically
getting true sight on gun mages has saved so many Cygnar games.
It's pretty important.
Cygnar has some decent AoE, but and especially in terms of like electro leaping things, but that doesn't always work out, and stealth can really hurt.
Absolutely.
Like Bane Thralls. I mean, this is back before like the most recent few releases, where a lot of armies got more tools to deal with stuff like Bane Thralls. Bane Thralls were like, now I'd say they're pretty reasonable.
I think Cygnar always had ways of dealing with Bane Thralls. It's called P. Haley.
Okay, well, regardless. But the thing is, like, as a force, it was really difficult to deal with Bane Thralls specifically, because they had tough and they had stealth and this stuff. And you needed a lot of like tools to be able to take care of that. And the gun mages, you'd rely on heavily for that. Nowadays, it's a little different. There's a little bit more options in a lot of armies. Cygnar, I don't know if Cygnar got a whole lot more.
I don't want to take P. Haley. You're just a bad person.
Apparently. Every time I took P. Haley, you said I was a bad person.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, see, I mean, in this army, Bane Thralls are like a non-issue, because you have Mage Sight for the Jacks to ignore stealth, or a Jack. Siege can just drop a ground pounder, which doesn't care about stealth at all.
And the Avenger can knock him down.
Well, if he directly hits, he has to actually.
Oh, that's right.
But if that means it's an argument for putting the defender in Siege's battle against scripts.
Oh, for the Mage Sight.
Mage Sight, yeah.
So the thing is, like with this box, is you have a lot of options, and wrapping your head around how you want to configure even just what's inside of this 35-point box is going to take you a little bit of time to learn. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's a good all-comers list. Like there's nothing in the box that's bad.
The Jacks, especially the Avenger, isn't my preference on that chassis, but it's not terrible. And again, you can magnetize, you can build what you want.
Yeah. I agree with that. I would almost always take a Centurion over the Avengers.
Except, I mean, again, in this list where you have, it's a primarily ranged list, the Centurion's not going to benefit as much from the Centurion would be something you could actually throw in the Junior, because like Siege doesn't do anything specifically cool for it, and I guess Mage Sight ignores clouds, so you can charge through clouds. But
well, and the thing about the Centurion though is like just being able to deny that frontal attack helps.
Right. Yeah. And also, it's got reach, and it's strong as hell. It's like pound 19 or something.
Yeah, he's disgusting.
It's quite nice.
But even just running with the Avenger, Avenger's very... he's got a lot of utility, right? He can do either the range game a little bit, he can do melee just fine. He is slow, but you have a lot of things that can hold your enemy back until he gets there. So if you play your gun mages properly or well...
His charge is going to be like your wave 2. Like your first couple of turns with this list should probably be spent shooting at your opponent.
Yeah.
To whittle him down, weaken him out, and then...
We'll push back the major threats like that.
Well, yeah, exactly. But then, like, your last turn, you charge in with your Avenger, who is scarier than the defender in melee, even if he's a little bit slower.
Oh, yeah.
And, at that point...
And then, I mean, the thing is, like, after he connects with the first attack, now your defense 7 can't run or charge.
Only if you're a jack.
If you're a jack. But I mean, that's what you're probably going to send him after.
Unless it's a hordes list.
Well, that's true. If you're
There
on
you go.
one base, it's a problem. But there's only 4. So, I mean...
Faction balance.
No, let's go with our thoughts about this. So, Logan, what do you think about the Cygnar box, given that you only care about Kato?
It's not that I only care about Cato.
They should be dead.
Okay, well, they should get off my land first. It's all my land.
Yes, Cygnarians live in West Kador.
Yes.
Yes.
Bastards. Okay, honestly though, I feel like this list synergizes really well. I feel like it really plays to Siege's strengths really well, and I think that if your interest is playing range, you should probably pick up this box.
Okay, what do you think?
Siege's pretty cool guy. Shoots the rockets, makes people fall down.
Would you change anything in this box? Like, if you were the one designing a 35-point list based around Siege and kind of what's in there, is that like, what do you think doesn't fit?
If I were building this box with no consideration as to the rules that Privateer has set out with pretty much only faction models and like no duplicates or whatever, I might swap out like the Stormguard and a little bit more for maybe a like Nis Hunters with Maxwell, because they're another strong ranged unit that can drop in like...
That's true. I mean, okay, but now let's pretend that it has to be in faction.
Well, if it has... Again,
it's the Cygnar box.
Again, if we're ignoring constraints, I might try and figure out a way to replace the 2 jacks with a Stormwall.
Okay.
But, I mean, Stormwall is a little great.
That was my biggest problem with Cygnar, and it's actually the reason why I quit playing Cygnar, is because the Stormwall is too good. And that sounds kind of dumb.
The thing is, I mean, like, I agree with you. I think the Stormwall is as strong as it needs to be for a Cygnar. Like, I feel like it's too good in isolation. Like, if you gave the Stormwall to Crix, everyone would cry and die. But because it's in Cygnar, it's like it benefits them. Like, Cygnar hasn't been overpowered or dominating the tournament scene.
So it wasn't that it was overpowered or dominating the tournaments or anything like that. But the problem that I had with it is that prior to the Stormwall coming out, I owned the line of warjacks.
Yeah.
And once it came out, and once I got a hold of it, I could never, aside from like epic striker with Rowdy, I could never justify taking anything other than it.
Yeah.
It's just like it's super good at range. It's super good in melee. And it's not that expensive.
Well, the thing is too, like it plays to the War Machine resource system better than having multiple jacks.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, this list has actually a lot of ways to supply your jacks with focus or do other stuff with them. Mm-hmm. The gun mages give you a free focus, pseudo-focus with the Jack Marshall ability, and give your ranged jack better options with its guns, and your Journeyman will give a jack focus, essentially. And, I mean, hell, you could include Allison Jakes in this list, too, to like run another jack, hypothetically, to like its full potential without impacting your warcaster. But those are all extra point expenditures, and the Stormwall just being as good as it is, and as synergistic with the faction as it is, you don't need to spend the extra points doing that if you just get your one big fat model.
Yeah. So I mean, if you were a Cygnar player and you really want to minimize your I guess investment into the faction, I would pick up this box because I mean it's like 50% off or 40% off of like retail, and you get a good foundational army.
Yeah, like the units and solos and warcaster are all very good, and the jacks are serviceable, even if you do want to replace them with a Stormwall.
Well, yeah, exactly, and I mean and not to mention that the other jacks that you can make with these kits are good as well.
Right.
But yeah, it's just a Stormwall. It's just absurdly good compared to the rest of the jacks in Cygnar. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that there is a fix for that, which is kind of unfortunate. It's just, to me, I ended up playing basically, you switch out warcasters here and there, but you basically play the same list all the time, for me. And maybe I wasn't being as creative with the warjacks as I could have been, or maybe I wasn't looking for reasons to take them, but it's just it was really hard to justify.
The fix is giving everyone Gorman and immunity to electricity.
Yeah, or play against Sayrin all the time.
Well, I mean, you can still shoot.
Yeah, but if you don't have focus, it's a lot harder to get
Fair point.
that damage in. So yeah, there's ways to shut down to Colossals. It's just like you just throw down a threat that they have to deal with, and it's as good as any two of your jacks in the faction. Except for maybe Old Rowdy with Striker, because he's got synergy and he's actually hits really hard.
This is huge digression.
Yeah, it's a huge digression, but it is something to keep Cygnar players in mind of. Because if they pick up this box and then they're like, okay, well, I don't know what I want to do with the heavies yet, I'll pick up a Stormwall, we'll play with that for a while. It's a good list. Like
you've got to muck around with at least 1 point.
Yeah.
Because 19 versus 18. So.
Yeah, so you drop the... Actually, it'd
be hard to do. So maybe just play with this box for a while and look into a Stormwall in the future.
Yeah, well, and not only that, but like the cost of, financial cost of the Stormwall is the cost of the box, right?
Yeah.
As with any of the All-in-One Army boxes, they're not tuned to be 100% tournament lists always, but they will give you a really good taste for what the faction is and how it plays, and this is a solid list. For me, yeah, I think the Avenger, would I run the Centurion under certain circumstances? Maybe. I would magnetize the Avenger because the Centurion is very, very playable.
You can magnetize it for us.
Yeah, I might. Defender's a great warjack.
Yeah.
I like it better than the Ironclad.
It's way better than the Ironclad. The Ironclad is your like Slayer or like Crusader. It's your cheap. Yeah. It's your cheap workhorse jack. The Defender you take because it has a purpose. It has a big long range gun.
Yeah. And then what was the other one that you can make with that? The Hammersmith, right?
Cyclone.
Or is it the Cyclone?
Cyclone.
With this box, the Cyclone has a really good place because he's also arid now.
Yeah, but he's only got the thing is when talking about like Brisbane Siege's feet, right? Like it only does the one shot, right?
That's true. Well, and the thing is, like, you're using the Defender as like an assassination vector as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean the Defender is a really fantastic jack. I would play with him quite a bit. The Avenger I'm less sold on, but I do like the AoE knockdown, even if it is.
Yeah, well, I mean the AoE knockdown's fun.
And you could swap out Siege for Peace Striker, and then like just straight across and have like a really good ground game as well. So yeah, I would just get in before you change anything in any list. Get in lots of games. Like don't. What I try and caution people against, and we've learned this over time, is that when we first started playing, we'd lose a game and be like, well, this guy did nothing, so he's out. We're going to put something else in. And the problem with that is that like you don't have anywhere near enough information to really understand why he didn't do anything. Maybe you got bad rolls with him. Maybe you didn't play him properly. But like to swap out stuff after the end of each game, which we had done previously.
I still do it. I'm so good at this game.
It's you don't learn anything that way. So I would get standard rule of thumb. And this is just an arbitrary rule. More
also an extremely long tangent.
Yeah, but it's relevant.
Sure.
Is play your army 10 or 15 times before changing anything. And then see where you're not happy with how the army performs. Because you're going to have some games where the Defender's an all-star freaking monster, killed the warcaster, did everything for you, and you didn't need the rest of the army. And then you're going to have those games where Defender died second turn and the gun may just pull through for you.
But clearly, the answer in that case is just run more Defenders.
Yes, yeah.
Like, mathematically speaking, if your one Defender died, then you just need more Defenders.
Yeah, just have 900 Defenders.
That's too many points, Steve.
Well, it depends on how big a game you're playing.
It's like 810 points.
Okay, it's
a
a big
really
game.
bad game.
But I do think that the Cygnar box is good value. And all of the units are useful in isolation as well as together. So, yeah, that's all for our Cygnar discussion video. And thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff.
See you next time.